And we are going to bring you something that we hope is really relevant in what's going on in your life right now. Cooking for people during the holidays, right, my friends? I mean, this is what brings people together. So if you don't have snacks or a meal, I mean, right? Would anybody even come over? Maybe. I mean, maybe for a present over this time.
Yeah,
I mean, but this is something that is super important because with food comes people, whether it's in college because you're a starving college student, or even if you are a thriving professional, you want to have snacks when you bring people together. And so let's talk a little bit about food safety. And this happens to be my background. If you've listened to the show before, you know I talk about food safety. I'm a food scientist who has a background and emphasis in food safety. And so one of the biggest things that we have to identify and what we mean here on the show today is, what is foodborne illness? Okay, so interesting fact. What's the percentage of preventable cases of foodborne illness? Anybody? I'm kind of putting you guys on the spot here, but give me a percentage. Like, how many of the cases are totally preventable? Give me a number, quick. We're on radio.
It's pretty high percentage.
Okay, 100%.
Okay, that's kind of what I figured it was.
All cases of foodborne illness are preventable. So foodborne illness is defined as, something that we've put in our mouth. You have to ingest it. You have to consume it. But let me read one of these from our publications here with NDSU Extension. Foodborne illness often presents itself as flu-like symptoms, such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, or fever. So the important thing is sometimes you don't know it's from something you ate. It could be like the flu. And so many people don't recognize the illness that's caused by bacteria or other pathogens in food that you have ingested. Okay, so just like nutrition, some people say, are tomatoes, are they a fruit or a vegetable? If you're listening, please hone in. Tomatoes are the fruit of the plant botanically, but every time you put one in your mouth, it is a vegetable. Okay, so tomatoes are a vegetable nutritionally. It doesn't become nutrition until you eat it. Just like foodborne illness, it doesn't become foodborne illness until it's ingested. Are we good on the definition?
I think so.
Okay, good. And so, my friends, we want to prevent foodborne illness because, just like we said, all cases are preventable. We have a food safety model that we follow that's recognized by USDA. Now, remember, I'm a scientist, so bring me down to a level that, everybody's interested if I'm going too scientific here, but USDA recognizes this too. There are 4 steps to preventing foodborne illness. And you kind of think of them with C's, okay? And actually, you've got it right there, Kaya. Can you tell us the 4 steps?
Yep, so it's clean and then separate, cook, and chill.
Okay, all right, so let's go through those a little bit, and then we'll bring it back to as it pertains to working with groups, okay? So cleaning means, especially, what can you do with your hands?
Wash them.
Right. It's the easiest thing. Even back in when I studied the bubonic plague, the doctors back then, hundreds of years ago, were noticing that they didn't see as many cases if the practitioner washed their hands when they went from case to case. Okay, it pertains to cooking in your kitchen as well. So clean, wash your hands and the surfaces often. And you can use soap. And I tell you what, when you're working in the kitchen, it's a requirement in a commercial kitchen. Again, if you're cooking for lots of groups and having people pay for their lunches or dinners, commercial, whether it's restaurant, it could even be a hospital setting. We cook for kids at camp. That's a commercial setting. It's required to also use not only soap and water, but a disinfectant. So when we are using soap and water, newsflash, we're not killing the bacteria. And guess what? We don't want to always, because some bacteria is good bacteria. The antibacterial soaps are not always necessary because the good bacteria wards off the pathogens, the bad bacteria. So the bacteria that's on our skin is helping us right now. We don't always want to kill it with those hand sanitizers and things. It's a good secondary if you're if you're on the run and you just can't get to a sink. But let's talk about cleaning with soap and water. Now, disinfecting. So again, it's required when you have a lot of people together. You can make your own disinfectant if you want to, and if you think it's necessary because you're going to be using, a lot of high-risk foods in your kitchen. High risk is dairy and meats and stuff. You might want to mix your own. And the way that you do that is you take 1 tablespoon of bleach and a gallon of water. You don't have to go buy something fancy. That's cleaning. First step, okay? Now the second step, what is that now here? Separate, right?
Yep.
What does it say on the sheet here on that?
It says don't cross-contaminate.
Okay, cross-contamination. 2 summers ago, I really appreciate USDA. Going to my home over in Morton County, I saw an awesome billboard that basically was out to anybody who grills. Don't use the same, an example, cross-contamination. What am I getting at, Deb? You know what I'm getting at here. Don't use the same plate with your raw products as your cooked products.
Right.
Exactly. And so if you are, taking out your hamburgers, and everybody needs a surface to take, you don't grab those with your hand and take them out to the grill. So you have, and some people even grill, even right now when we have a lot of snow. So don't take that same plate and then turn around and put your cooked burgers on that same plate because you left it out there. You need to grab a new plate. Don't cross-contaminate because when it's ready to eat, hopefully it's safe. And so raw meat, we know, carries pathogens. We know it's there, especially on poultry. We know that salmonella lives on poultry. It has to get up to 165 degrees in order to kill the pathogens. We'll get the last 2 steps here, chill and cook, cook and chill after the break. Thanks.
Right now, 32.
News headlines and weather together, live on Super Talk 1270.
All right, welcome back. Good morning. This is Extension Connection. You're joined by the staff from Burleigh County today. Joining the show specifically on this session is, of course, myself, Chandra Zeman-Belinsky. I'm the Family and Consumer Sciences Agent. I am joined by Deb Johnson, our nutrition educator, and she works with both Burleigh County and Morton County. So if you have kids in school, they might have met her already. And then we also have Kaya, who's joining us as a dietetic intern. Talking about foodborne illness to make sure that you are cooking safely through the holiday season here, because the key is, and we even care about you, but you're not only cooking for yourself, you're cooking for others. And so, kind of the concept of cooking for groups, we've defined foodborne illness. It means that, the bacteria load's too high, or there might be a pathogen on the food that you have consumed. It then becomes foodborne illness. And remember that foodborne illness is entirely preventable. We're teaching you how to do that. There's 4 steps to fighting bacteria. It's called the Fight Back campaign from USDA. And those 4 steps are cleaning, separating, don't cross-contaminate, cooking properly, and chilling properly. Okay, so if you skip any one of those steps, and obviously multiple, you're on your way to foodborne illness, because likely that's, all foodborne illnesses come back to a step that was missed here or not done properly. And so we can prevent that. We just want your family to be safe and when you're having fun, because everybody comes together around appetizers and food, right, friends? Okay, so we've got the clean step we talked about. Cleaning is not only cleaning away the biofilm, the food itself, but you can choose to disinfect if you think you need it, okay, especially if you're working with high-risk foods. You don't always have to if you're in a non-commercial environment, your own kitchen, and that's for the most part who we're talking to on the radio here. But make sure you don't cross-contaminate. Now, especially in the home environment, Deb's got a couple points here that she can talk to you about on the cutting boards. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you're using clean dishcloths, cutting boards. Generally, if you're having both vegetables and meat, you should have 2 different cutting boards for use with those 2 different items. Same with utensils. Plates, we referenced a little bit beforehand that the plate you take the raw meat out in shouldn't be the plate that you put the final cooked version of the product on.
Yeah, that everybody can relate to. Yeah, thank you. So, we're not saying that you've got to go out, and especially if you're a low-income family or something of that nature, and we definitely have those in the community, you do not have to go buy another cutting board if you don't have to, okay? I mean, you just want to prepare your ready-to-eat. What's ready to eat, my friends? Can you think of something?
Like fruits and vegetables.
Fruits and vegetables, and that's why we say fruits and vegetables versus meat. So ready to eat. Fruits and vegetables are ready to eat. Even cheese. You cut it, and it's ready to eat. You aren't going through any other steps to render it safe because it is ready to eat. It's safe to eat. And so cut those first on the cutting board. Then go to something that you have to cook or chill down or mix with a vinegar or whatever to render it safe to eat. Okay, now let's talk about cooking here properly. Or cooking is an important step, and you have to make sure it's cooked properly to certain temperatures. So your meat, your red meat, anybody know what temperature you've got to get that up to?
165 degrees Fahrenheit.
Well, close. Red meat is 100. Well, there's this red meat's harder. Okay. So I'm sorry I made it a quiz question. I don't want anybody to get the wrong one here. So it's ultimately, and this has changed here and there. You'll see different answers. But right now, we're constantly doing research. NDSU works closely with the Ag Commissioner and also USDA, and it's 160 for red meats. Pork falls in there, friends. Okay? And so actually, if you're commercially preparing, and you might say, well, wait a minute, I like my steak medium rare. Well, there are some exceptions. Call us, go to our website. If you like your medium rare steak, I'll help you learn how to prepare that, because it all has to do with time and temperature. Okay, they are not independent of one another. So what we're saying is, if you get your steak, your red meat up to 160 degrees, it only has to be there for 1 second. If you take it up to 145 degrees, you have to let it sit at that 145 degrees for a certain time frame. It's several minutes in order to kill the bacteria. And so we say 160 instant temp reading. But if you want a medium rare steak, call us. We'll give you that. So I don't want to confuse you on the air. So we do have, you can check out our publications. And if you use your favorite search engine, whether it's Google or Bing or whatever, if you type in Burleigh County Extension. Our official name's NDSU Extension Burleigh County, but you can type in Burleigh County Extension and you'll get to our website, and you can search on medium rare steak or, cooking temperatures, okay? Red meat, whatever you want to search on. That's a great resource. And to be honest with you, if you're not sure about any subject, we might have an answer for you. I'm not saying we're the expert on everything, but hey, if you aren't sure of how to keep your kids active during when we're snowed in, which we've had a couple days of that, we've got an answer for you. Okay, back to cooking. Now, poultry. You might be making a turkey. Do you make turkey, Deb, over Christmas? Your family?
A Christmas holiday, yep.
Now,
Tradition.
The temperature that Deb threw out there earlier, that is the poultry temperature, 165 degrees, okay? 165 degrees, you've got to get there at least for 1 second. And we know that's because salmonella likes poultry. It hangs out on poultry. Salmonella needs to, it doesn't really die until it hits about 165 degrees. And so it's relative to the bug that lives on what, food that likes to thrive on. So red meat, yeah, you might find salmonella, but for the most part, not. It's not there. And so, that's the E. coli, coliforms, other things. And so those usually take about 160 degrees. That's why the difference is, if you really want to know. But keep your family safe. If you do not have a food thermometer in your kitchen, call me, 221-6865. It's everybody should have this tool. Because honestly, you've got the pretty garlic press. You've got, what else have you got? The mango slicer, the apple slicer. What's more important than your safety? Not necessarily these pretty pieces of things. Get a food thermometer. It's the number one most important thing that you should have in your kitchen. And the more that I talk about, this is one area I am not hypocritical. I pull that thing out for everything. Whether it's for my little ones now, I'm heating the food back up. You need to heat your food back to 165 degrees, whether it's red meat or not. Your leftovers need to go up to 165 degrees. That's why you notice I didn't say meat thermometer. You've got to call it a food thermometer, because it's not only for meat. I learned that early on in Extension. I was saying meat thermometer before. So actually, when you heat your children in the microwave, let's say you use a microwave because it's easier. Same thing, my friends, when you're reusing your Christmas dinner and you're eating the leftovers 3 hours later. Whatever it is, you want to reheat it to 165 degrees. Because maybe you didn't put it in the fridge. Now let's get to chill. Maybe you didn't put it in the fridge in what time frame? Or do you have
2
some?
hours.
2 hours.
Yeah. Many times we do prepare things ahead of time.
Yes.
And if we're going to heat it, then we want to cool it. And then that should be refrigerated in a shallow pan. And then, like Chandra said, to reheat it, you need to get it back up to 165 before you actually serve it.
Yeah. So thanks, Deb. Exactly. So 2 hours. So, okay, you're sitting around, you're having great conversation. Now you've just eaten. The last thing you want to do is clean up. Well, How long can you sit around? 2 hours. But that food needs to, once you're done preparing it, and it's out in that, we call it the danger zone. The danger zone is about between 40 and 140. It's officially now, thanks to our science, 41 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. What temperature is your house usually set at? Right in the middle of that. It's the most dangerous area, sitting out on the counter. So we want to get our leftovers in the fridge, and then we want to reheat to the proper temperature. So that's kind of the big message. So clean, separate, cook, chill. You do all 4 of those, and you're going to make sure that you keep people safe. Now, you might wonder, well, I don't have to cook vegetables, right? I mean, I don't have to cook you don't have to cook everything. There's some science that goes into that. But, if you're wondering the proper method to prepare something, call us. We can get into the specifics. But there are certain things that are already rendered safe without a time-temperature relationship. Okay? There's other reasons why. And so, but if it does require a cook or, a certain temperature because it's a high-risk food, the bacteria likes to live on it. If it's not prepared, that's where there are some exceptions to that food model. Okay, so, yeah, preparing ahead of time is super important, Deb. That's a good point. I get questions on thawing food. Okay, so if you have, right now, you should start to think about thawing your big roasts and your big turkeys. Okay, so now the rule of thumb that we teach in Extension is every 5 pounds of meat takes 24 hours to thaw. So if you have a 12-pound turkey, how many days in advance, ladies?
2.5-ish.
2.5 days, and I'd go 3. Why is that? Why would I give myself a little extra time? We give high-risk meats specifically about 3 to 4. We give maximum 4 days in the fridge. So you can let it sit in the fridge a little longer until. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, you probably want to take your meat out because we're on what day today? Tuesday, Christmas Eve. I'm talking to prep for Christmas Eve, looking at the calendar. That's the 24th. So if it's frozen, take it out now because you have the window of you can even buy your refrigerated. You can start going to the store now today and buying your refrigerated meat that hasn't been frozen and prep it for Christmas Eve.
You actually have one less day because it is Wednesday today.
Oh, golly. And Deb, I knew you were waiting to get me. I mean, hey, I'm busy. And actually, I should have known that because what's today? The first day of the season. Right? I knew it was the 21st. I just forgot it was Wednesday, which is great because we're 2 days closer to the weekend. Okay, so good call. All right, so thawing meat, that's important, okay? And you want it, the best method to thaw is in the refrigerator. We recognize, and I suppose we'll get to the other, we got to take a break here. We'll get to the other methods here after the break. Thanks.
Right now, 32.
Dave Ramsey is heard here. Super Talk 1270.
All right, welcome back to Extension Connection. This week you're with Burleigh County. My name is Chandra Zeman-Belinsky. I'm the Family and Consumer Sciences Agent. Talking to you today about, keeping your friends and family safe as you prepare your exciting snacks and meals over the holidays. I'm joined by Deb Johnson. She's our Family Nutrition Program educator, and she also works with an FNEP group, which is an acronym. But she teaches nutrition programming. If your kids are, especially right now, she works in Morton County and Burleigh County. If your kids are in school, they might have met her, depending on where they're at. And then we have Kaya. She's a dietetic intern. We're enjoying talking to you today about, and it's a good reminder for us too, the food safety model. So foodborne illness, we don't want people to get sick. We've talked about the science behind it now. Make sure that you're cleaning the surfaces, you're not cross-contaminating, you're separating the stuff that needs to be cooked, that doesn't need to be cooked. If it needs to be cooked, it's cooked to the right temperature. And then we want to get your leftovers in the fridge, especially the high-risk, dairies and meat foods, the stuff that has been cooked, into the fridge within 2 hours. So the chill requirement. Okay, so now talking about, since I get quite a few calls on thawing meats, and we said, okay, I forgot. It's Wednesday today. Thank you for that correction. And even though I knew it was the first day of winter, you know what? Today is the day you should definitely be getting your roasts out of the freezer and thawing them in the refrigerator, going and buying the products that haven't been frozen. Sometimes, I like to do my shopping because I work Monday through Friday on the weekends, but I thought I better not buy my roast here on Monday, or on Sunday, because that's too long to Saturday to Christmas Eve. So we recommend that you're storing refrigerated meats and even most leftovers, maximum 4 days. 3 is better because we know the growth of the bacteria there. But let's talk about thawing. So, yes, of course, you can thaw in your refrigerator. You give yourself about a day for every 5 pounds of your roast. So 24 hours. And sometimes it takes a little longer, I have to say, in my experience with that. That's on the safe side. And what's another method that you think we can thaw meat or foods?
In the microwave. But
Microwave?
that means you don't put it in there and forget about it.
Okay.
And assume it's safe. You got to continue to watch it.
Right. That's right. Because, honestly, it can start cooking it, too. So you can thaw in the microwave. That is perfectly safe as far as it pertains to those food scientists that do the research. It's a method. You do need to cook and consume. I should say cook, prepare the food right away. So let's say that you are really crunched for time. I tell you, if you're a busy working professional, take the meat out, the day before, 2 days before, and leave it in your fridge. It's the safest method because you have a little time frame. Microwave, you want to cook it right away. And then what's the other? The third one's not as obvious. You guys know? Okay, so
Run water over it.
Running water. Okay, now there's a couple keys here. It's not just water. It has to be running and it has to be cold. We don't recommend hot water because it could create hot spots in that food product. And then remember that danger zone is about 41 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So that hot water is honestly maybe even up above 165 degrees. 165 degrees is just a little too hot for your mouth. So you're going, oh, that was hot in my mouth. That's about 165 degrees. So if you can't touch it, it's above that. We know that it's above, that danger zone if it's too hot coming out of the sink. So we don't want to use hot water. So give yourself some time. Now, both you gals have worked in commercial kitchens.
Yes.
So you have some experience there. And
Yes.
Do you see that running water method in those commercial kitchens?
I've done it before. I don't do it often because
Right. It takes more time, and it feels like
does.
you're wasting water.
yeah,
Right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then with that also, you don't want to soak it
That's right.
in
can't
water
be sitting
either.
in it.
Yep. Don't sit it in the water. Has to be with an open drain. It has to be going
That's
the whole
right.
time with an open drain.
That's right. And so that's why we say running. And so if you right now we're helping you out. We're saying you're safe. Put it in the fridge because that's the method. Again, with running water, you need to prepare it right away. So the only method, and those of you who like to do those freezer meals, I get these calls, freezer meals, and I'm more power to you because you're getting organized when you're too busy and you can still offer your family a healthy meal. If you have ground beef, let's say you buy a side of beef or a half beef or something like that, can you thaw that meat, then prepare your meal, and then refreeze it? Well, the only way that we say that you can refreeze your meat after it's been thawed is if it's been thawed in the refrigerator. Okay, so hopefully that helps you. So if you've used the microwave because you weren't prepared to do your freezer meals, that should not go into a freezer meal. Because it could have hot spots. You could have allowed bacteria to grow to a level that can get people sick. So if you're doing freezer meals, if you're doing, your holiday meals, okay, I think I beat that up. But I just want to make sure that you know that the one recommended method is refrigerator. We know it hasn't gotten up into that danger zone of 40 degrees. Along the same lines, Deb, you mentioned slow cookers. They can keep our foods hot, though.
Yeah.
They're
They can
above
keep
that.
them warm.
Yeah. Okay, warm.
If it's on a low setting. The other way would be just to put it in the oven at a temperature of like 200 to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll keep it warm
Yes.
while you're getting ready to serve it.
Yeah. And so the key is, and if you're not sure, because remember that danger zone is 40 to 140, you pull out that food thermometer. And if it's been, if you're holding things in the oven, because you've got a big feast that you've made, right? Yeah, not everything's ready at the same time. If you're holding things in the oven, you can put that food thermometer in there and make sure that it's being held at above 140 degrees. Okay? If you don't have a food thermometer, I have those that, they're not safe to cook with in the oven, but I'll give you a food thermometer if you need one to know where your holding temps are. Okay? Any other tips here, Deb?
If you've got those cold foods and you're trying to keep them cold, especially if you're serving a buffet style meal, cut them up ahead of time and keep them in the refrigerator till you're actually going to serve them.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, keep them cold until you're ready to put. Because remember, the clock starts. That 2 hours starts as soon as you come out, and our ambient temperature, our room temperature is about 70 degrees. Okay.
The other thing about serving food, if you're doing that buffet style, you want to arrange and serve food on several small platters rather than one large one, so that you can keep refilling it as you need it, and all that food's not exposed to the.
That's such a great suggestion, Deb. I mean, yes. Okay, so. Maybe here's what my aunt does. She's a personality that is very organized, and everybody comes to Thanksgiving when she has it at her house, and they know that they can look at the sheet. They're paired with somebody, so she kind of does this for fun, knows who she pairs them with, and they know they're going to prepare something. So, one person is in charge of making sure that, everybody has, a pop or a water or a beverage. One person is in charge of making sure the platters stay full. Maybe you create a job out of it so that you're not running around, because most of us say, that's too much work. I don't want to be refilling platters constantly. I'm just going to put it all out. Right, Deb? We could probably create a little, even the teenager can keep the platters full. Because I can say that is one of the best tips I've heard on preventing foodborne illness from a exposure standpoint. Along those same lines, just a little tip here now. We're all nutrition educators in the room here. Kaya, Deb, myself, Chandra. And, some of the research shows, I don't have a percentage in front of me, but you are very much so less likely to overeat, especially large feasts, when you use a smaller plate. So don't necessarily, if you're the one hosting this weekend, maybe you just use the smaller plates, and everyone is to say, I need the big plates. It could be a dinner plate, but now they've got the what inch diameter, paper plates. And I'm even just thinking Sam's Club now in bulk. And then they have the even larger, abnormally larger plates. I'm just saying, don't get the abnormally larger plates. You're not helping yourself out, nor anybody that's eating at your house, from a, standpoint of, sure, they can load up their first plate, but at least you're kind of regulating the real estate. Okay.
Well, and then also kind of stand away from that serving table.
Okay. Exposure
off of the serving table.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. But we do have research, and actually, if you're not sure, if you don't believe me on you're less likely to eat more with a smaller plate. Take a ice cream scoop. Most everybody has some type of ice cream scoop or even one of those cookie scoops, but use an ice cream scoop. It's usually about a half cup. That's actually a serving of ice cream, by the way, half cup. Okay, so take that same cup, take your mashed potatoes or whatever you're doing, and put it in the center of your smaller dinner plate. Okay, not your salad plate. I'm saying you're going to get some complaints there. I'm saying your dinner plates. Put that in the middle. Now your extra large dinner plates, take that and put it in the middle. It looks so lonely with, that half cup of mashed potatoes when that's actually a serving. And so measure it out. Try it out yourself. Anything else, Deb? I love these tips.
I got some funny little tiny, your tiny tastes will really add up. And one example is your first taste, you have maybe a piece of peanut brittle that someone brought as a treat to work. Well, that's 80 calories right there. Then you have another little taste because someone brought some chocolate-covered cherries to work. And so you have a couple because, they're a fruit, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's another 60 calories right there.
So little things as you're piecing.
Yep. Your taste 3, you had you built big cookies and you broke one. So you ate the little piece. Well, that's another 30 calories.
Right.
So they just continue to add up. Well, then you have another taste. You were thirsty. So you added a half a cup of old-fashioned eggnog before your guests arrived.
Right.
That's another 200 calories right there. So
it adds up when you're snacking. Okay, more with these snack tips when we come back from break.
Right now, 32.
Stay up to date. The Red Eye Radio, overnight on Super Talk 1270.
All right, welcome back to Extension Connection. You're joined by the staff of Burleigh County this week, and specifically, you have Family and Consumer Sciences on the board here, myself, Chandra. You have our Family Nutrition Program educator, Deb Johnson, and then also Kaya. She's interning with us from, she's a dietetic intern, so she knows how many milligrams of calcium you should eat a day, right?
Hopefully.
Specifics, yeah, hopefully, maybe. So we're talking about foodborne illness, and you know what? It might not seem like an interesting subject. Don't change the radio station, because this applies to everybody who eats. This applies to everybody who likes to cook for other people or who likes to go to a place where there's a wonderful feast on, even if you didn't have to do it. Because you know, foodborne illness only starts when you've then eaten food that hasn't been prepared properly. And even if you think you're careful, you know, this can apply to anybody, actually. And if you've been listening to our show on a regular basis, you know that when my brother was about 11 months old, he came down with salmonella. And he was barely on solid foods. And, you know, my mom was nursing him, and he got salmonella, almost died, because tell you what, who knows? Who knows where it came from? And that year, there was a huge spike in the cases of salmonella in 1981, 1982 there. And so something was going on. We're teaching you how you can prevent that. But, you know, we went through the science of it already. Deb, you had some really neat tips that you were talking about with, hey, nutritionally, the calories can add up. So what we call this in extension is mindful eating. Be mindful of the caloric content of the snacks that you're eating, even if you think it's chocolate-covered cherries, right? I mean, it seems like a fruit. So now, Deb, you mentioned eggnog. How much is eggnog? How many calories did it say? You still have that in front of you? And while she's finding that, I was asked, has anybody ever ventured on making their own homemade eggnog? Well, if you say yes out there, there is a safe method and a not-so-safe method. Now, eggnog, what's the key ingredient there in the name? Eggs. Eggs are a high-risk food, and they have to be worked with properly. And so pasteurization does take milk up to above 165 degrees to make sure that it's rendered safe to eating. Some people out there say, we didn't do it for years. Well, I could argue that when it comes to foodborne illness, especially preparing eggnog, doing your own home canning, maybe you have done it for years, but it's like walking across the interstate blindfolded. You're going to get across most of the time. But there might be a situation where you can get hit. That happened with my brother when he was 11 months old. Our family has been hit by foodborne illness, almost lost him. And to this day, his teeth are affected from all the antibiotics that he took, according to the doctors. And so, it can happen. And so we don't want to walk across blindfolded. Back to eggs. Eggs have to be cooked. And if they're not, they should be pasteurized. So if you're going to make your own eggnog, it is not recommended to use raw eggs and not cook them in the first place. If you insist on doing it, make sure your eggs are pasteurized. And there are certain eggs that are pasteurized. Okay? So, Deb, what's the caloric?
It was 200 calories for that glass of eggnog.
Little glass of eggnog. Now, if you're adding...
Half cup, actually.
Half cup.
Yep.
So that's only 4 ounces, my friends. I mean, a regular serving of milk is 8 ounces. That's double. Okay, now does that include the bourbon in there? Bourbon has calories.
That extra, yeah.
Bourbon has calories. So if you're going to mix eggnog with bourbon, empty calories. Kind of fun to do. And we say, for females, we do break it down into gender for the research now. Females can have 1 drink. That is defined. We won't get into that. Males can have 2 drinks, and that's usually relative to their body mass index. So, not to be the damper, but if you're trying to watch it from a nutrition standpoint, go ahead. Everything's okay in moderation. 1 or 2 drinks, but it can add up. Okay, now, couple things I wanted to say. In addition to we're talking a lot about bacteria, there are other contaminants that could happen in food, and we break them down into 3 groups. It can be biological, and that's where your bacteria come in. Okay, so we talk a lot about time and temperature, but there's a couple others that Kaya reminded me of at the break. We have physical contamination. And so if any of you are those avid hunters, fishermen out there, the hunters, if you're going to make a wild game bird, which is really exciting, maybe a wild turkey over the holidays, or in the case of when you use a shotgun, especially pheasant. I bet there's a lot of you listening that have maybe chipped a tooth or bit into a BB from, especially, I'm just thinking, pheasants or rabbit, or even we see BBs sometimes in beef come through. Not sure why, but we can speculate. And so those are physical contaminants. Watch for them when you're preparing the bird. Just watch for them, and that's physical. So you've got to just look for them. And then there is chemical contaminants, and those can be, let's say that you mix your own sanitizer. I taught you earlier in the show, if you need to use a sanitizer to kill the bacteria, that 1 tablespoon of bleach to 1 gallon of water, that is mixed to a ratio that you don't have to rinse off. Just spray your counter, don't wipe it. You could be using a dirty rag to wipe it and recontaminating it. But if you go too high, if you're using, a quart or something, you're going to then introduce a chemical contaminant. And so just so you know, there's a few things to watch for, okay? And so good point on that. Let's get into something fun now. 10 tips to stay active this winter is what Deb is looking at in front of her. So now that you've had your feast, you've prepared it safely, a couple tips to help you out as you're getting active. And maybe it's not just watching, ball games on TV and playing games.
The first thing might be to start a new physical activity tradition, and that might be, instead of cozying up to that TV, bundling up and taking a walking tour of the holiday lights after dinner. Getting out, getting that exercise. Thinking about different seasonal kinds of chores. Turn your regular tasks that you have to do, like shoveling and house cleaning, turn them into activities. Set a timer, do it for 10 minutes, then change your activity.
I like the
make
timer
it more
idea.
fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will just go faster. Also, take some time to be a kid again. That might mean go sledding, snowshoeing, or cross-country skiing. Building that snowman. How many of us have actually been out, unless we have children, out and build a snowman? This year's a great year. We got lots of snow.
Yes, yeah.
To be able to do that. Turn off your TV. Set a rule that no one can spend longer than 2 hours per day playing video games, watching TV, or using the computer. Otherwise, get out and get active, doing other kinds of things. Play indoor physical activity kinds of games, like do scavenger hunts, play charades, things that where you have to expend energy.
Yeah, so the physical games, that's a good point, versus those that, Monopoly, you don't have to be physical. You're moving your piece around every 4 people. So I like that charades thing, and that's really fun. Did anybody see on Facebook here the fun game where you can wrap a present? And then you go around and you rolled. Every time you roll doubles, you pass a present. Well, and the first person to open that present gets the present. But here's the kicker: you have to put a Santa hat on, and you have to put oven mitts on. And that's, opening a present through oven mitts is really hard. And so that goes around, and everybody's physically kind of excited and cheering, and that's just another fun example.
You also can, now is not a good time to go for walks outside, when we have icy conditions, snowy conditions. So finding an indoor place to walk, that might be, just checking out the local school gym, or, going to the mall and doing a walk. Usually the average super center is like 179,000 square feet, and a mile is about 5,280 feet. And so you can judge your
what is
distance.
it? 5,280?
5,280.
That's right. I forget
feet.
that. It's good to remember.
But you want to be cautious when you're walking in the mall, though, because you might get enticed by all those stores,
Sure.
and if you're doing that window shopping, it could affect your pocketbook in the long run.
Right. If you need any pointers on holiday spending, and we're getting down to the wire here, so, maybe it's a little late, but I do want to mention we've got a great couple publications about holiday spending and, just stretching your dollar and a little bit about watching those finances. So if you're a little stressed about that, give us a call, 221-6865, and we can help you out with some tools. Okay, a couple more, Deb, and then that's everything today.
You can help others by actually building your fitness minutes. You can go out and volunteer. That might be helping at the senior center, helping with holiday drives, or helping assemble food and gift baskets. We'll take up and use some of your extra energy that you have. And lastly, set that physical activity goal. If you write it down, you can keep track of your progress on your calendar or on the chart.
Absolutely.
See what gains you've made.
And, children really benefit from that charting, even if it's a cheap little gold star that they get. They really benefit from that structure. Well, good. Thanks for those tips. Everybody have happy holidays. We really appreciate the opportunity to share with you some things that might not be exactly exciting to talk about, but are necessary so that when we come together and celebrate, we do it in a safe manner. All right, so happy holidays to everybody, and thanks for joining us on Extension Connection.